Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at the major arpeggio fingerings and then some things that we can do with the arpeggios. I'm going to use G major 7th here as a springboard for the examples. You can check all these out in the diagrams that are available for download. So let's say if we're going to do a fingering that's across the neck, now that is more or less around the chord itself when we have, and it could also be thought of as around or taking out the notes from the scale, and you're lifting those notes out. But either way you look at it, it gives you a frame of reference as far as to where your fingerings would be. Now there is a horizontal way of looking at things too. What you want to do is find the chord voicings for each one of these chords, and then if you knew how to do the scale modes that attach themselves to each one of these positions, then you could also think of it that way. I tend to think of it simply as a chord shape, and then surrounded by the scale, out of which I'm going to take the notes that I want to use for the arpeggio. So in the major 7th voicings, you could have this voicing here. You could also have this voicing here. Of course, we have this one and this one up here. So they'd have 1 there, 2, 3, 4. A 5th one up here, which has a tendency to sound a little bit. This would give you 5 fingerings or 5 positions. But in terms of connecting them, you only need 2 or 3 positions to think of in your head so that you can connect them. So on this one, if we look at all the notes, this is in this area here to get up to this next one. But the horizontal connection between these, you could do, oops, sorry, that was the 4th, sorry about that. So now I moved up here to the 10th fret. And that would give you a nice wide range. You can also connect to this position up here, which would end up here. You'd have that's 1 fingering. You could have this. I'm just playing all the notes that are in this available area, above or below. So anyway, you have these 2 here that connect those 2, and 2 here that you can connect with this. So you've got quite a line there for connection. And that's the G major 7th basic arpeggio fingerings. Okay, so what can you do with the arpeggios? Well, let's say you have the arpeggio, the major 7th arpeggio, and you're going to play it against another chord. So for example, the thing you have to remember is that in scale harmonization, they give each chord that belongs to a scale a number, okay? So probably many of you already know this, but let's say if we were up in, let's say we're C major here. We have the C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7. We have back to the root. So if we're playing a C major 7th chord, which is C, E, G, B, and you wanted to have a different sound against that, the rule is that if this is the 1 chord, you can substitute it with an arpeggio that starts on the 3rd of the chord. That would be the 3 chord, which would be, in this case, E minor 7. Also, you can also do another one, and that would be starting on the 6th of the chord. Now, if you take a look at the notes in those chords, you'll see what the differences are. For the C major 7 chord, when you play an E minor 7, you're adding a note that's not in the chord unless you add it as an extension, and the note would be D. So you're adding the, so if you compare the D to the C, that's the 9th of the chord, so you're actually playing in a 9. You can add a 9th chord there. So that's the sound you're going to get. In other words, what I'm saying is if you play an E minor triad, an E minor arpeggio over the C major, it makes it sound like you're playing a C major 9. Okay, and the other one, the A minor 7, the 6th chord, played against the C major 7, it's going to give you A, C, E, and G, and that's the notes of the A minor. But if you take a look at the root, it's obviously A, and so what's the A against the C major? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have a C major 6 chord. That's what we're implying when we put an arpeggio over there. So, what's a rule for arpeggio substitution that's diatonic, meaning within the scale source, parental scale source, is if you have a 1 chord, okay, it's the major 7, then you could substitute it with a 3 or a 6, and you're implying either you're playing a 9th to that or you're adding a 6th to that. So it sounds like you're playing something a little different, still diatonic, still of the scale. So that's one way of looking at the major sounds that you can put on a major 7th chord. Now what about some lines that you could create from that? So let's say we have a C major chord here, and we went what did I do there? I'm just thinking off the top of my head there. Well, what I did was I started out with the C major arpeggio, and then I descended. Now what I did there was I was on the 3rd E, went down to E flat, which is it's a passing tone. It's not of the scale, and then down to a D, which would be the 9th there. I think I went. Okay, so what I did there was descend. Let's try to remember that. Did I play that? I don't think I played that. Okay, so basically, when I descended, the only note that I had there again was an A down here. Excuse me. And then when I came down here, ended on an A. So now I've kind of like implied the 6th chord by ending on the A. It's a good neutral tone if you're in the middle of a solo, you know. So that works pretty good. If I was doing a 9th, I might begin on the 9th and do a little chromatic descending right to the root. And what was that? So I have a D, the chromatic passing tone, C, and then I jumped to an E and did an E minor arpeggio. Now these are all notes of the C major 7 chord. And then I did another one, descending here. Now right there on the note is an A, so it went A. So I added that chromatic passing tone as well between the A and the G, which made it a 6 to a 5 of the arpeggio. And let's see what I did here. See. Now I could go there. You can actually hear these things in your head if you really think about it. They're like trying to hum it or something, you know, ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da. And then find what those notes are. And now here I'm playing all straight eighth notes, so that's probably the best way of practicing all the arpeggios and your lines and everything before you start changing and doing different rhythmic values. So if I had... Now what did I do there? Well, actually I'm implying a chord change on that, because I swapped out a note and went down to here. I don't think I went, or yeah, I went to there, but that sounded like for just a second, for just a moment there, you know that? I added this note here. That note, that flat 5 or that sharp 4, or if it's in the upper register, you want to call it the sharp 11. That's just how you, if you want to, you know, your designations, your nomenclature for the chord tones that are an octave above what you're working with. But basically, there's really only 4 alterations. But we'll get into that another time when we do the dominant chord. But I added that note there, and I look at it as a passing tone. So, and then when it went, did I do that? I think I went. Okay, so you can run this video back and forth and show me what I did wrong and how I mislabeled something. But anyway, ending on that note was a 6th, which was an A. So it didn't matter whether the chord changed, but I heard a chord change in there for some reason, and it could be done at that point. Because anytime you land on a note, even if it is in the arpeggio, you have to think it could also be a common tone for another chord. So if that note that you land on at your end of your arpeggio belongs also to another chord, that means that you could actually think ahead in terms of chord progressions and where they're going. But we'll save that for another time. So there's some interesting ideas that you can do with the arpeggios, with a major arpeggio, okay?